This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
TradeFlow Capital Management celebrates 5 years of strong returns and SME success. To find out more, please visit www.tradeflow.capital.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. OPEC's share of India's oil imports fell at the fastest pace in 2022-23 to the lowest in at least 22 years, as intake of cheaper Russian oil surged, data obtained from industry sources show, and the major producers' share could shrink further this year. Members of the OPEC, mainly from the Middle East and Africa, saw their share of India's oil market slide to 59% in the fiscal year to March 2023, from about 72% in 2021-22, a Reuters analysis of the data that dates back to 2001-02 showed. Russia overtook Iraq for the first time to emerge as the top oil supplier to India, pushing Saudi Arabia down to number 3 in the last fiscal year, the data showed.
U.S. fuel makers are expected to post higher first-quarter earnings in coming days on strong fuel exports and margins even as domestic diesel demand slumped during the period. Refiners have been riding a wave of favorable pricing and demand as pandemic-era closings boosted margins. Alternating periods of higher demand for products have also helped, with jet fuel recently sprinting higher as diesel fell off. It's looking like another really strong quarter for U.S. refiners and their balance sheets are in great shape, but in the second quarter things are really starting to come down, said Matthew Blair, refining analyst at Tudor Pickering Holt & Co.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Oil prices were steady on Monday as concern over rising interest rates, the global economy and the outlook for fuel demand were balanced by the prospect of tightening supplies. Brent crude slipped 22 cents, or 0.3%, to $81.44 a barrel by 09:05 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 10 cents, or 0.1%, at $77.77. Both contracts fell more than 5% last week for their first weekly declines in 5 as U.S. implied gasoline demand fell from a year earlier.
The Netherlands and Britain plan to build what would be Europe's biggest cross-border electricity link connected to an offshore wind farm, their energy ministers said on Monday, part of efforts to boost energy security. The Lion Link interconnector will be able to transfer 1.8 gigawatts (GW) of power to Britain from a Dutch wind farm, or the same volume of electricity produced in Britain to the Netherlands, they said in a statement ahead of a leaders' summit on energy in Ostend, Belgium. The link, being developed by Britain's national grid and Dutch electricity network operator TenneT, will move enough surplus power between the countries to power the Dutch province of Zuid-Holland, or the British cities of Birmingham and Manchester combined, the ministers said.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
CME Group Inc., the world's largest derivatives exchange, is not planning to launch a nickel contract to rival the London Metal Exchange, LME, Terry Duffy, chair and chief executive of the group, told the Financial Times on Monday. "I'm not working on listing a nickel contract," he told the FT, adding that launching an alternative would be difficult. In February, Reuters reported that CME Group plans to launch a nickel contract, settled with prices gathered from a platform to be launched by UK-based Global Commodities Holdings, GCH, which could eventually compete with the London Metal Exchange.
Chilean President Gabriel Boric's plan to nationalize his country's immense lithium industry is putting the spotlight on an emerging crop of filtration technologies aimed at revolutionizing how the metal is produced for the electric vehicle industry. In a national primetime address, Boric said last Thursday a new state-owned company would work to slash the environmental impacts of lithium production by shifting away from evaporation ponds, traditionally used to remove the metal from brine, in favor of direct lithium extraction, DLE. While neighboring Bolivia, as well as General Motors Company, Rio Tinto Limited and other companies, have made their own DLE bets, Boric's move represents the biggest vote of confidence to date in the commercially and proven suite of technologies given plans to deploy it across Chile's vast lithium reserves, the world's largest. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. Russia could export a record amount of grain this season, around 60 million tons, including 50 million tons of wheat. The head of the Russian Grain Union, Arkady Zolochevsky, said on Monday. Russia is one of the world's largest producers and exporters of grain. Agriculture Minister Dmitry Patrushev said last week he expected Russia's 2023 harvest to be about 123 million tons of grain, including 78 million tons of wheat, around a fifth down on 2022's record volumes.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.